Ooh, hammer barn. Ooh, hammer barn. Project Frank.
Ooh, Glenn McGrath. Ooh, is that right?
That's why I did it, because we saw Glenn McGrath on the weekend.
Of course we did.
Yeah, when we were at the cricket.
Yeah.
But more importantly...
Sorry, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the children's television program Bluey.
Yes.
And I've got you here with me, Frank.
That's me.
And how are you doing?
Life is good.
Life is good. Excellent. Martin.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
He's here.
He's here.
I'm physically here.
In the room.
In the room. Again. We're so lucky.
Yeah. Fortunate.
Yeah. Speaking of good fortune, and this is the reason usually I go on and on about something that happened to me during the week or a movie I like before we actually get to the thing.
Well, you notice we haven't asked you how you are because we're trying to avoid that.
Okay, I'll just leave a little bit of opportunity for you to ask me anytime. No, not happening. Well, the reason I tried...
So how was your week, Brenny?
Oh, sure. Very well, thank you. And the reason I tried to keep the intro very brief, just an hammer barn project, and it didn't end up being brief because I'm me, but the reason I tried to is because this isn't just any other normal episode. It's not even a normal episode because we've got Martin in the room.
True.
Martin, can you tell us why this is extra special?
It's an extra special episode because we have my wife, Ali, here in the room with us.
Hello.
Hello, Ali. And this is how long we took to get to Ali.
You could see her sitting there just looking, going, the guys are going to acknowledge me, right?
This episode of the Hammer Barn Project is called VELOCIWAPTOR.
I've been terrified about this ever since Frank's Ali came on. And Brendan was like, yeah, we should get Ali on. I'm like, yeah, she's pretty busy.
Yeah, with the amount of heat that Frank's
Frank
Ali
got a lot,
served up to him.
Yeah, it was
and
great fun. Really recommend it.
Yeah.
She took him down several pegs, and I got to say, Ali, I am looking forward to this episode for the exact same reasons. But Ali, we did this when Frank's Ali was on the podcast. Now we've got Marty's Ali. Before we get into this... Oh, actually, what episode is it, Frank?
This episode of Bluey is called Ice Cream.
Yeah, it is. But now that I've made you say that, I'm going to backpedal. And just because we gave Frank's Ali an opportunity to talk about her introduction to this kids show to end all kids shows. And, you know, how dare I not give you the same opportunity, please?
I think what Brendan's trying to say is give us your Bluey origin story.
Okay.
That was a lot quicker than
It was,
me.
wasn't
Again.
it? Yeah.
Succinct, Frank. Very succinct.
What's that word? Nah, I probably won't worry about it.
Well, I guess I didn't really watch Bluey until we had our daughter, Naomi. And I just really watched the first 2 minutes of every episode. So there's actually very few episodes that I've seen all the way through.
Yeah.
She likes the introduction and she gets a bit bored, but she also really loves the play pause button on my phone. So there's a lot of play pause, play pause, play pause.
Hey, more Bluey is good Bluey. So that makes a 7-minute episode like, what, 40, 45?
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, it's really good when you're waiting in the doctor's office and you've got to stretch that time out.
That would make... I feel like if I were in the doctor's office with you, because I know the episodes so well, not as well as some of the other people in this room, I'll say that, but because no kids. I got that in nice and quick.
Yeah,
in this
well
episode.
done.
Get it out the way.
Cool.
Just having like little snippets of play pause, like listening to episode. I'd be on the edge of my seat trying to wait. Oh, here comes that line but Naomi's paused it.
Can we invoke a play pause button for Brendan? Is that possible?
I'll edit one in.
This is great.
I don't like it so much. Where was I? I was in some kind of void where I couldn't move or speak.
You were over there, now you're over here.
It's like that Round the Twist episode.
It's almost like we need some kind of feather wand.
Hey!
Reference joke.
Man. Oh, I wasn't the first person that the magazine got rolled up for this episode.
Can you remember what your first episode was that you perhaps watched in full? Was it one that we watched together?
I think it was. Yeah, you showed me one.
Maybe The Weekend or something, because that's got a cricket reference.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you showed me that.
Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
yeah. No, I know we keep doing things without talking about the episode. But we really should, like, we've spoken about cricket on this show before.
Once or twice per episode.
And it's usually there's one person in the room that knows more about cricket than me, and then there's Marty.
Yes.
And now there's two people in the room who know more about cricket than me. I'm in Marty's half of the not knowing so much.
This side of the table
This side.
is very cricket
Frank,
knowledgeable. Okay.
Come to Frank or Ali with your cricket queries before you come to me. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
How's
Ice
that
cream?
LBW?
How was that LBW?
So,
Marty, would you care to give us the bare bones of this episode, please?
So this episode is basically an unpacking in Bluey terms of the prisoner's dilemma. So that classic sort of game theory idea that, you know, if you're put in a prison cell and, like, you know, you have the possibility of either giving away the other person, and, you know, those sorts of, no, it's not about that at all.
I was really that one felt like a bit of a stretch.
I was that time
You
I was
were there
really
with
listening.
me. Well, no, it's an episode in which learning about compromise, or learning about how you can share with another person. So Louie and Bingo, they've been out for a day and they've convinced Dad to get them an ice cream, and they don't really know how to share, and they're finding out what fairness sort of occurs.
There
in
it
that
is,
situation.
fairness.
You see, the problem with this episode is it relates around desserts in particular, like with ice cream, as the title would suggest. And when we watched this episode, I was immediately reminded of my, Ali, and our second date way back when, and we were at a nice restaurant. We got and looking at what should we get for dessert. I said, "Oh, do you just want to, you know, get one dessert and share?" She's like, "No, I don't share dessert," and that is something that is still true to this day.
Nice.
So when she, you know, says, "Oh, have a lick of yours," and my Ali was like, "No, don't do it, don't do it."
That's a for real life moment for
Yeah,
you.
that's it.
And good on her for laying down the law straight away.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's
knew
like,
where I stood. It was
like
great.
Joey Tribbiani. Joey doesn't share food.
Pretty much.
We should ask Ali, why did you choose this episode that you wanted to talk about?
please.
Well, I want to choose this episode because the voice of the ice cream lady is by Lee Sales.
There it is.
And I am a bit of a fan. I would describe myself as a chatter. So Lee Sales and Annabelle Crabb have a podcast of their own called Chat 10 Looks 3, which has a bit of a big following. And so I was very keen to review an episode with Lee in it.
Nice. So Lee and Annabelle, not if you're listening, but when you're listening, feel free to tweet us or gram us. Is that what the kids say? Because numero uno fano.
Tweet the face grams. I don't know.
Tweet the face grams,
Tweet the face
please.
grams.
I think the thing that got me was when Ali ordered a tea towel, which just has, I think it's insults.
This is my story. Thank you very much, Martin.
Yes,
Take
it
down
begins.
one. Take down one.
Oh man,
All
if I were a
please tell
GIF,
the tea towel story. Then.
if I were a GIF, I'd be the Michael Jackson eating popcorn one. You know,
Thank you. So anyway, I've ordered a few things from the Chat 10 Looks 3 merchandise, and one day they're having a sale, and I was like, oh gosh, I've got some tea towels. You know, they Lee and Annabelle insult each other in a joking fashion a lot, so they've got a lot of their insults on the tea towel, and I thought, well, look, our tea towels are a bit sad. It's on sale. I can support them and have a new tea towel, and that'll be a bit fun. Anyway, it arrived personally signed by both Lee Sales and Annabelle Crabb. I am never going to use that tea towel.
nah.
It's going straight to the pool room.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have sad tea towels. You've got to have at least one that tells a story, or you got to have that one that's like
You look forward to using that one.
or it's not. I don't know. Some tea towels, some of the best tea towels aren't very good tea towels.
That's right.
You know, you've got the ones
look
with
pretty, but
recipes or maps of exotic places. Like I've got one that tells you how to make
Like
Irish
Edinburgh.
stew, but telling you how to make Irish stew is like the only thing that this tea towel is good for, because drying dishes,
Bum, bum.
I'd sooner use just my t-shirt. But I don't do that.
Welcome
by the way.
everyone to the Tea Towel podcast. All tea towels all the time. So we're talking about new tea towel openings today.
If we are. My favourite tea towel. Let's all talk
no,
about
we're
our
not.
favourite tea towel.
Stop. Where's the pause button?
Play pause. Play pause.
No, but I got a tea towel from the Paul Kelly concert that actually has his recipe for gravy on it. And I do use it as a tea towel. And I take it with me camping. And
That's pretty cool. Cause
it's
I do
not
love Paul
signed
Kelly.
by Paul Kelly.
Ah,
if it were,
see?
I wouldn't
Not as
use
good.
it.
Have you made the gravy though?
I haven't made that gravy. No, I haven't actually. I should get someone to make the gravy the way it says. My favorite part of that is when it says, "Do not walk away from the gravy at any point," like because it takes it very seriously. But I'll use this opportunity to say that even though my tea towel is not signed by Paul Kelly, my guitar is. So that will probably stay in there, just because it's like not related at all. But when am I related to what we're supposed to be talking about? And the world needs to know I have a guitar signed by Paul Kelly.
Welcome to the Stuff Brendan Has podcast.
That's
all
my goal.
the stuff Brendan has one by one.
Oh man, I'd listen to that.
Then you might actually remember all the things that you have.
Then people would be able to go, Brendan, stop talking to me. I'll go and listen to your podcast. Pretend that they do so that...
But then, seriously, doesn't Frank actually have a podcast about all the stuff that he has?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure none of you listen to anyway. So
we plug your Toy Power podcast criminally few times on this. We really should. And it takes Marty's beautiful wife, Ali, to be in the room to actually be a nice person and go, "Hey, Frank, what's that other podcast you have that people should listen to?" Whereas I'm just like,
tea towels.
tea towels. And Paul Kelly and Indiana Jones. Just had to get that in there.
Right, so before our listeners get too bored,
That's what we're about.
Well, speaking of bored, how's that establishing shot of Stripes and Bandit sitting in the gift shop, and just that they've got that dad look of the kids are doing their thing. If we just stare at the wall and just wait it out, then something will eventually get to leave. They feel like you talk about prisoners. They feel like the prisoners at the start of this episode.
Stripe,
right?
the look on his face during that, he's checked out. It's so good.
You can imagine what they've just been through, though, because they've just been through what I presume is a natural history museum type thing. Not
that's
that
a
you
good
even
point.
need the whale hanging in the background, because the gift shop itself is so spot on.
Oh, man.
With the like wood paneling sort of stuff and the like bins, like
soft toys.
plastic bin, or just like bins of like the thing that Muffin picks up, like the plastic dinosaur toy or whatever.
What is it? It's a VELOCIWAPTOR.
That's right.
Well, we could cut this out if this is a mean time to do this, actually recording. But I thought maybe it would be appropriate because we've got the lovely Ali in the room.
I am terrified right now.
No, it might be a good idea to introduce a new segment that I've been thinking of.
Oh no!
Because, but it involves me pointing out something that we've been getting wrong, and I don't want to point fingers, but every now and then. Frank.
Uh-oh.
You
hang on. Marty's one is getting picked on. His wife is here.
It's
all
feeling
related.
so much better
now. No, it's all right. It's all right. Every now and then, you refer to Bandit's brother as Stripes. His name is, of course, Stripe. It's just a singular Stripe.
Is it really?
But
Okay.
the reason I was really hesitant to go, well, actually, and this is something, Ali, I'm sure, especially in your career, you've had to deal with a lot. Men saying, well, actually. So I thought, because I was in danger of mansplaining, I thought we could introduce a new, because dogs are man's best friend. Mm-hmm. I thought anytime one of us might get something wrong, we could kind of do a bit of man's best friend-splaining. Mm-hmm. And just look, I hate to man's best friend explain, but it's just Stripe.
Sure.
And we'll sit down and talk about that afterwards and see if I'm a jerk and whether this segment will never see the light of day or whether we can sneak it in because it's an honest mistake.
We'll workshop it. We'll see what happens.
But it's not all the time. It's not all the time. Every now and then, Stripe gets upgraded and promoted to having more than one stripe and becomes Stripes.
Cool
What
story.
were you going to say, Brett?
No, I'd hate to like continue talking and get something wrong. So I think I might just shut up now.
Cut. Removed. Cutting room floor.
So still in the gift shop, to your point, Marty, there's a couple of little references in that opening sort of 20 seconds or so. On the right-hand side, there's like a sort of aquarium-style thing that's, it's got the glass panels. You can see what's in there. Sticky gecko. There's a tub full of those on the right-hand side. Also, and I think it's after the VELOCIWAPTOR attack, there's a really quick shot of Bingo holding a book. That book is the Sleepy Time book.
Oh,
it has a little picture of the Earth on the front of it.
Wow!
And it was one of those.
Nice.
It's one of those pause and you miss it. The one thing I didn't find in this episode is I couldn't spot a long dog or a tennis ball. Now, look, in that opening shot, it's possibly in there because there's a lot going on.
I think it's another great example of how the Bluey team take location photos and like replicate them really well. Because it's got the classic sort of thing of big fluffy animal things are at the top, and then you've got the other boxes of, whatever they are, sciencey type toys. There are a lot of reference shots in this. I think, Ali, you know a couple of them.
Yeah,
we'll
indeed.
Get there.
Indeed, I do.
We should talk about the ice cream, though, and Lee Sales' little cameo.
Now, this is Lee Sales' second role in the show. Am I correct in saying that?
That's right. She also does the voice of Coco's mum.
That's right. Yes, I knew there was another one. I was like, I've seen Lee Sales' name come up before this episode.
So I think the nice story about Lee Sales is that she mentioned that when she did the recording for the voices, she's got 2 young boys, and she told her sons that she was going to be a voice on Bluey, and they were so excited. And then every single day when they watch Bluey, they're like, "Mum, are you on this episode? Mum, are you on this one?" It took many months before those episodes were released.
That's tricky. How do you balance that? How do you don't want to, want to milk as much as you can from the respect of your kids that you're going to be on Bluey, but play that card too early.
Yeah.
And then it can turn on you.
Well,
That's tricky.
the Gotta Be Done ladies would have faced that as well. They probably would have told their kids, we're going to be on season 3, and then the horrendous wait for season 3, and then no, you do this. I think it was as early as episode 10 or 12 before they appeared, which was long enough, I would have thought.
There are some great lines in that exchange, though. Like, Lee does a really good job of just like, it's a fairly muted performance, but it's kind of what it needs to be.
Exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, even coming into like, can we have an ice cream? Like, Muffin's not going to get an ice cream. There she is with her ice cream. Oh, thanks, mate.
Well, you can have a lick of muffins. Yeah, not going to happen, mate.
It's because she got a dinosaur stuck on her head.
Yeah, it was a VELOCIWAPTor growling at her when she tries to suggest that she can have a lick. And then, we're going to go back, and then they've got mango. This is the best thing ever in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. I was going to say, like, Bingo has some fantastic over expression in this one.
Yeah.
Number 1 is that, number 2 is that this is the best day ever in the entirety of my life. The first one, which reappears a couple of times, is when she just crouches down and like screams going to death, because she's not going to get an ice cream, which is fantastic over expression,
but also kind of realistic. Like
true.
now that our daughter is a little bit older, she's 20 months old this week, there are now a few times where if she doesn't get something, that it's down on the floor. It's all the way down.
Planking is a real thing. In fact, she's probably playing with my son Jack at the moment, and Jack will teach her how to plank. Let me tell you, it's a skill.
I think Naomi's going to teach Jack how to count to 15.
A funny side story to that. We have obviously we've had Christmas. We have a set of Christmas decorations where it's the carousel style horses that go up and down, electronically powered and stuff. And there's 4 of them all strung out, and you can, they're all connected. I said, Jack, how many horses are there? And he goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just starts pointing at the last one. Got all the way up, and he got 9, 10, and just clapped himself. And I'm like, is that worth a clap though?
It's good counting. Like, I want to congratulate that part of it, but there's only 5, buddy. We were speaking about how great the location scouting and everything was. did you say that you had a bunch of really good ones?
So I've been to Brisbane once.
One more time than me.
Hey! So after they come out of the museum, they appear to be walking along Brisbane's South Bank.
Yes.
Which is a lovely stretch full of there's a market, there's lots of cafes, there's cultural. I think there's a temple there. It's a cultural precinct.
Wow.
So they dance past Streets Beach, which is like an inner city beach. It's very nice. They also go past the Grand Arbour, which I did have to look it up, but it's a 1 kilometre long arbour designed by Denton Corker Marshall. It's a well-known architectural firm, and I am in fact an architect. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that also references your earlier comment about men always mansplaining to me in my job.
I shouldn't have assumed that it was an arena in which ladies would get that a lot, but I did assume
But it
that.
is. It is. Yeah.
And also in that shot, you have the golden, different type of busker. Did you notice there's a golden sort of, stick levitating person?
Oh.
Had you noticed?
No.
Okay, so in sort
There's
of
a
the
lot going on.
arbor thing, yeah. So there's a busker wearing, all in gold, but one of those sorts of people who has the power of levitation, and all they need is just their walking stick on the ground.
You know what this show is really good at?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
Please tell me.
Look, I feel like they hint at cinematographic salutes to different movies, but not necessarily strong enough for me to be sure. And it's like they're playing a game with me, which is really great because every time it's like, well, that's sort of like this, but not quite. And I reckon that's probably intentional so that it can't be accused as just a total homage. And it's just like they keep it really loose. Like this one really conjured up the Sound of Music to me. Especially on the outing when they're out doing the Do Re Mi number and they're going through is it Salzburg or Vienna? I can't, and it's just such that movie, other than being awesome, come at me. It really is this incredible artistic and photographic showcase of such a beautiful place. And it was in that arbor. Is that the one with the sort of enclosed arch thing? That kind of made me think of the bit where they're running down this thing. And it just made me think, I mean, of course, having Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers
very good call.
didn't hurt. Having that sort of
Did we all look that up
musical
individually?
I totally just waited for Brendan to say it and then nodded in agreement.
Yeah, very good.
If we're comparing it to The Sound of Music, though, the only thing that they missed is when the kids all fall out of the boat. I mean, we have a ferry. We have Muffin and Stripe getting on the ferry.
Maybe they fell
We've
out.
done it. Maybe they did.
I like to think they did.
I hope they didn't, because the river's not very nice.
No, Muffin's very young.
Yeah.
It would have been good to wash off that
that
ice cream, though, yeah.
Oh, there was none left. Remember, Muffin, you got to finish that before we get on the ferry.
That's going to be a problem. Because knowing what I know about Muffin,
fantastically Muffin,
you'd think maybe she'd have a bit of attention. Like, I don't want to fit. But
like,
no,
it's
the
a
flip side
different-
was, they're
it
like,
is-
is that a challenge?
It's a different
In it
side of
goes.
Muffin
Yeah.
that is completely within Muffin's character. It's great. But you had some other places as well. What else was there? There's the Ferris wheel. What was that one called?
The Wheel of Brisbane.
The
there you
Wheel
go.
of Brisbane. Sounds like
Like sands through the hourglass.
sounds like a cancelled game show.
I was thinking, it sounds like some kind of, reminded me of the Wheel of Time. So,
Okay.
I was a bit scared. It made me think maybe I don't want to go on that.
No. Wheel of Brisbane. Nothing against the management of the Wheel of Brisbane. I'm sure it's lovely. And
Were you also comparing it to the Wheel of Fortune, Brendan?
Wheel of Brisbane.
I do have a
Oh, that's the Price is Right tune. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying, Ellie?
I do have a Wheel of Fortune story.
Oh, go for it.
Does anyone remember when they used to record Wheel of Fortune in Adelaide at the Channel 7 studios?
No, I don't.
I think I knew that, but I don't think I'd ever been or...
My grandparents took me there once to watch it being filmed.
Amazing.
Which was pretty cool. And in, between every episode, they sort of did some warm-up exercises with the audience to keep everyone entertained. And they were, I think I must have been about 7. They were sort of throwing a cushion around, and my grandpa got it and tried to throw it back, and it didn't go very far. And the host of the show, I can't even remember who it was.
Was it Don Burgess at that time?
Don
no.
Burgess was there for a long time. Yeah.
And then there was that other guy who...
There was a guy who did the voiceovers, though, so it wasn't the actual host. But
Tony Danza is...
Who am I thinking of?
Are you thinking of the spinny guy from Jeopardy?
That's who I'm thinking of.
What's his name? He was on the Brashers ads.
Now we're going old school. Sorry, Ali.
Come back from that tangent.
Tony Danza was on American TV. He was like, Tony Barber.
Tony Barber.
And he was on Sail of the Century, and he did the spin around, and he was on Australian Jeopardy.
Had the finger guns when he'd get around and stuff.
And he was on the Brashers ads when Brashers were the thing. But Tony Danza was like on Who's the Boss? I think.
Stop mansplaining.
So anyway, he said something rather uncomplimentary to my grandpa. I can't remember if he called him stupid or something, or said he didn't throw it very well. And anyway, I stood up in the audience at 7 and turned to this guy and said, "Well, what you say is what you are."
How old were you?
7, I think.
Yes. Excellent.
With an episode like this where they're outside, they're obviously left the Healer household, there's a real good excuse for a whole lot of cameos. And we've obviously spoken about Lee Sales.
Yeah.
One that I saw, and I think it's happened just before the dance number begins.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see little Jack and his family walking along.
So much stuff I've missed.
They're literally walking past in the foreground. We get to see Winton and his dad at one point, I believe, in the background of when they're going through what's the big flower thing called?
The arbor.
The arbor, yes.
Right.
When
they're
sort
watching
of,
the busker.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also just before, when they're clearly at is it South Bank, is that what it's called? Where you can sort of see they're on like a promenade type thing, and there's the river. There's a rock sort of just where it joins, and there is a very familiar looking lizard that sits on that rock. We've talked about the creek episode, have we?
Oh, no, we haven't.
No.
We
well,
haven't.
That is the same lizard that shows up in the creek episode.
Right. There's another animal reference in this one, very particular. Well, gets called out quite a few times in the Bluey series.
VELOCIWAPTOR?
No, it's the bin chickens.
Bin chickens.
Showing
Bin
this
chickens
one,
are in
they're
there.
destroying the eating area.
I think the lizard is probably an eastern water dragon.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So
Well said.
as we've lived in the eastern states for a little while, they sort of come out in summer, and they can be quite long. They can come right up your garden and eat stuff from your barbecue if you're not careful.
Well, there you go. Look out for those eastern water dragons.
I do have one question, though. With all this, the lovely dance number, and you can see what's going to happen, the ice cream slowly dropping off and off and off. Is it just me, or do they end up back at the same bench where they started? Is it just a giant circle they go and they go through? It feels like this episode was set up, okay, let's do a tour of Brisbane. Here's the big wheel. Here's South Bank. Here's everything. And right back to the same bench.
Maybe that's the wheel of Brisbane. That's the real wheel of
I don't know.
Brisbane.
It's a fair call because it's kind of like, a bench across from the water so they can have the
looks the
nice
same.
sort of outlook. I think it might be a different one, though. I think if we go back.
You have to follow the trail of ice cream to work it out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I think it's whatever you want it to be, guys.
That's right. It's, interpretation. We have the what is it? The valuable life lemon?
Yeah, the
I
valuable
don't want a life
Oh.
lemon.
just the
Lime lesson.
I don't know.
That's what it
I don't
is.
want a
It's like-
valuable. That's great though. Lime lemon. I don't want a valuable lime lesson. I just want an ice cream. And the other
Frankly,
time
that's what
that
we all
she
want.
gets confused with words and flavors, like when she's waving goodbye to Muffin and
Yes.
Stripe, it's like kids, and isn't that a huge thing? Like
Yeah.
having to remind your kids, hey, they're saying goodbye.
goodbye.
You want to be
thing.
polite.
Yeah, you're
Happens.
distracted.
And then
Uncle
bye,
Strawberry.
Uncle Strawberry.
There's so many different iterations of fairness, and I think it's something that comes back quite a bit in Bluey because I think it's something that kids deal with a lot. And there's this whole thing of I guess comes through in parenting when you're trying to make these decisions and try to be fair or just try and be consistent maybe, or being in a position where you have to guide things. But you've got somebody who constantly sort of wants to have their own way as well. So it's interesting to see that. Like, I love the line of it got melted by the sun, and I'm like, well, that's That's about as fair as it gets.
It keeps coming back to fair, and that's about as fair as it gets.
Yes,
Changing how fair, like that's pretty fair. It's
fairly fair.
That's very fair. That's fairly fair. That's about as fair as it gets, actually.
And we, of course, have the lovely moment where, well, we didn't even talk about it at the start, where he panic buys the
I've
ice
got a
cream.
problem.
He's got
Just
a problem.
waiting
But I
for
love
the
it.
machine.
It's after the beep happens. It's not even like, oh, no, wait, sorry, I'm going to have to do that again. It didn't go through. It's like, beep. Oh, no, now I want it. That was to punctuate it. Anyway.
Yeah, he
just
has all this time to back up, and it's only the time he needed. And then when he made his decision as, no, I am having ice cream, then no amount of completion of the communication device could stop him from getting his ice cream.
Then, of course, on the other end of that, it's a classic sort of Bluey couplet. At the end, he gives them the ice cream, and they figure out. There's that wonderful moment where they've both got it together, and I think they both go in to hold it or something.
And see Bandit's
and
face.
Bandit's face,
oh,
like,
no, not again.
What are we going to do? Because I think he goes, "Here we go," or something like that.
He says that initially at the start.
Yeah. And so at the end, you've just got that facial expression. But then they've
learned their
work
lesson.
it out.
They've learned their lime lesson.
Yeah, they've learned their valuable lime
Lime
lesson
lesson,
in a really natural way. It wasn't a lecture. They learned it from experience, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing I got from the episode was that we're really looking at how you make choices and how choices are hard. So even when it's coming down to choosing the flavour, I think Bluey is really worried that she's going to have some decision regret. She's like, do I want mango because Bingo's having mango, but then will I be sad if I don't have something else? So that's really hard for her to figure out.
It's a classic thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I have the buyer's remorse.
And it's such a good point, because that's why, like, well, I'll just have a bit of Bingo's, and then I don't have to.
Don't
I
have
can
to
have a bit of
choose.
I can have a
Bingo's
bit of
eyes
both.
went, you'll what?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah,
It got out this far. No,
that yeah,
The
that's
tongues.
a great sequence.
Discussing the tongues.
And just that's going to have an impact on how the lick happens. I think this is one of the things that I say is why Ali and I have the perfect relationship is, well, we had a great meal
What,
the
because
other day.
I like olives and you don't?
Yeah.
That sounds like the perfect
There's one in
relationship
every
to me.
relationship. Until
No, it's like-
we had a daughter who eats all of the olives.
Now we're in so
rude.
much trouble. No, we had a lovely meal the other day where we went half and half on what we were eating, and we had no regret whatsoever.
Nice.
So, and we shared our dessert. It's just different. Frank and Ali, it's not something on there like
To quote Uncle Stripe, no S. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But I think, I remember at least there was times there, or at least a lot of times, where I was starting to feel a bit of, food regret, but Ali couldn't finish the whole meal, so I also get a bit of
well, you got to
food.
do
It's a
it. You
win.
can't let it
It's
go to
like- it's a
waste.
win. Yeah, exactly. You can't let it go to waste, and also you get your regret taken away. Perfect relationship.
I feel like you haven't learnt the lesson here, Marty, but that's okay.
Well, I'm learning so much. And what's that moment at the end? We're talking about fairness. We get to the point where something's about as fair as it gets, actually. And then what does Bingo rationalize? She said, well, you're supposed to give us your ice cream because you're the big daddy man.
It's your job to give us the ice cream.
Yeah. And he says, fair enough. And coming back to fairness,
Yeah.
it's coming to the end. Speaking of coming to the end, before we do, you thought I was going to do it, and then
So close.
I have to say something else. Ali, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's been, I just love having people in the room. And
It's better. It's better than just you and me.
much better.
Yeah.
Yep. Who wants that? All this to say, I'll do it in a nicer way. You're amazing, and it's great to have you here, and it's great to have you in the state, actually.
We're really grateful that South Australia let us in
Yeah.
from Sydney. Very grateful.
Yep. For anyone listening in the distant future, we are still in pandemic times, and it's not guaranteed that you'll be able to cross borders. So yes,
Travel is still tricky.
Travel's still tricky, and counting our lucky stars that you could both be in the room. Marty, not belittling how lovely it is having you here, but the fact
you
We
could do
prefer
without.
her.
that we prefer her.
Yeah, okay. I'll leave now. Bye.
Yeah. This was an awkward way of trying to replace you, but it worked. 'Cause see you, Marty.
Okay, bye. Where are my
Bye.
keys?
That's great microphone acting. He was moving away from
Moving away from the microphone as he said he was leaving.
Yeah.
What?
Speaking of bye, though. Should I do it like that? Why not?
well.
Not
What a
bad.
segue.
I see where you're going. Yeah, okay.
No, speaking of goodbye. You can catch us all at your South Bank Hammer Barn.
Aisle 300.
Left of the fake grass.
If you hit an eastern water dragon, you've gone too far.
Created and produced by Frank, Brennan and Marty. You can follow the Hammerbarn Project on facebook.com/HammerbarnProj, at HammerbarnProj on Twitter, or Hammerbarn_project on Instagram. Theme featuring Nibblings, Kaylee, Jade, Ashley and Ree, and PA announcements by brother-in-law, me, Josh. Thanks for listening, and remember to get down to Hammerbarn for cheap shovels.